This particular film, Eric Roth and I started on the project before I started shooting Irishman, I believe. And we thought we'd start doing it, but I didn't know where to go with the book, David Grant's book. I liked it a lot, and I saw a lot of potential. And people kept saying, you're a Western. I said, not a Western. I said, I can't do a Western. The Western I admire too much. It's a genre, and that's no longer the genre that I grew up with. And so I can't go there. The Western is Hawks and Ford and Bedecker and Walsh and Fuller and all of them, Nick Ray. I said, that's a whole other thing. I said, there's something else here. And we were coming in through the David Grant point of view, which was through the Bureau of Investigation, which became the FBI, and going into a place and finding out who did what. But as we were working on the script, Eric and I, we started we explored every possible angle on, from the point of view of the Bureau of Investigation. And I found that basically the people that all this was happening to were not even reactive, they were acted upon. And I didn't know what to do with them, because I knew immediately when I saw the title of the book, and I knew it had to do with Native Americans. I've had some experience with it in the early 70s, and something that I'll never forgotten. And I knew that if I ever dared venture into that territory, so to speak, I had better be very careful and very respectful. In time, beyond respect, you would have to do that justice to who they are as best you can as an outsider. And so what eventually happened, and I think I've forgotten the question.
Basically, it was whether rehearsal was needed to place.
Okay. So what happened was that, you see, that's the point. That's where the thing about it is that as the script developed, we kept getting further and further and further into the Osage, and less with the Bureau of Investigation. And at one point, actually, I think it was right before COVID, we read a very long version of the script. I don't normally do this, where people get around, they read the script, but just wanted to hear it or see it as they spoke. And it lasted for quite a while. And after it was over, Leo and I, Eric, and a number of the people, we were, concerned, as they say, because it was very long, and also still didn't have quite the impact that I felt upon reading the book and knowing the story, getting to know the story through research and other things. And so a few days later, actually, Leo came up to me. There's another component to this story, which I'll get back to, but he came up to me and said, we had a meeting, and said, where's the heart of this picture? And I said, well, the heart is Molly and Ernest. He said, well, I think I should play Ernest. Because originally he was going to play Tom White. And I didn't, that was the other thing that was holding me back, because Tom White, who Jesse Plemons does an amazing job of it, but Tom White is almost like an archetype in a way. He's laconic, speaks very little. What he does has great charm and has impact. But when I work with Leo, it's different. There's more that comes out of him, and I mold and shape that with him. So what was happening was that around the same time, again, right before COVID hit, I went out to one of two trips to Oklahoma and spent time in the Osage County. There are 3 districts, Hominy, Gray Horse, and Pawhuska. And I was at Pawhuska with Chief Jeff Standing Bear and everybody, and was getting to know them in a way, or just beginning to get comfortable. I mean, I'm from Manhattan. I'm not, it's like, I got to get in there. I'm not an outdoorsman, although how much I love looking at it, but anyway, I got to get to know what's going on here, what their attitude would be. Is there trust there? Why should they trust us? You're white, what are you doing here? And so we got into a thing that we began to cautiously trust each other. And at the same time, there was a dinner given at the Grey Horse district, which is a whole other area of the Osage. And I was taken at the last minute, so we're just going to go say hello to these people. I didn't know what it was. And we're driving and driving and driving, and then there's this kind of a community center. And I got there, over 250 people. And they had a traditional Osage dinner, beef with gravy and meat pies and spoons, no knives and forks. And everybody was dressed beautifully. And over 250 people, it was myself and Rodrigo and a few others. But what happened was that they started to get up to speak on a mic. And they told about their uncles, their fathers, their grandfathers, their grandmothers, the aunts, the uncles, all this sort of thing, and who got killed where, how, and who did what. And I'm realizing this still exists. It's here now. These are the descendants. This is still alive. And a woman named Brandy Lemon got up and said, I know people were concerned because the kind of films you make are very violent usually. So, but I did see that film Silence. And I said, I think you have maybe, there's another aspect of him or an aspect that could fit into the story in a different way. She was very interesting that way. I felt good about that. I began to see this is very interesting. The best was Margie Burkhart got up. She's the granddaughter of Ernest and Molly. And she pointed out, and this is what got me, she pointed out, you have to remember that Ernest and Molly were in love. Because we come in thinking, oh, these are the bad guys, they're doing things, and these people, they don't, and Ernest is a bad guy, and he's going to kill the whole family. They're in love. I said, what the hell is that? That's interesting. And we knew about Ernest's character. We felt we read the transcripts of his trial. We knew the kind of person he was, and everybody talked about him because there were a couple of John Williams who's now dead. He was very close with Cowboy, who's I believe Margie's father. Was Cowboy is the son, the little boy in the movie, and so that, along with reading a final draft of a script, not a final draft, but a very, very long draft of it, and Leo asking me, where's the heart? I realized the heart's got to be in the love story. How the hell do you have a love story where the guy is actually poisoning people? And maybe even poisoning his wife. And so we decided to take a chance and take the script and with Eric and everybody just take the inside out. And then go from the inside out rather than from the outside in. We had Paramount Pictures agreeing to do the film at that time. And so we did a quick draft trying to build up the love story and keep the FBI in there and keep it. And it wasn't right. I said, look, I've done pictures where, we start in a draft and then eventually working and works out. We get the film ultimately. And all I have to do is try to convince them that it's just the first couple of drafts. We're going to get there. Well, they didn't want to go there. Yeah. I totally understood it too because it's a different world now out there and it's a lot of money involved. And they said, we like the other script. I said, yeah, but this is going to be better. I said, I haven't gotten to, then I realized, what am I telling him? You got to trust me? They got a lot of money. Oh my God. Okay. At that point, a couple of days go by, people are scurrying around. At that point, Apple came into it. It was very, very amazing that they did. And with the idea of theatrical distribution also, because I wanted to make a picture for screen. And Paramount came back in for distribution. So everybody worked it out. It was kind of nice. Leading to that, because of to answer that question, it really is the very heart of the way the picture is put together. And so rehearsals were a continuation of this exploration, but it never stopped. It was day by day. And rehearsals were meetings, talks. Lily would go and meet with Chris, who was teaching her the Osage language, and she would come back and tell a story about the coyote and the whirlwind. And she goes, it's the trickster figure in folklore, and the trickster figure in Osage folklore. And she goes, I see he's the coyote. And they started making different animals, and Bob's character was like the raccoon. And all of these things were feeding into our scenes. So we were doing, quite honestly, I was doing the rewriting until the very last day on set and on the weekends. Like, for example, the scene with De Niro and DiCaprio in jail at the end. We didn't know what would happen there. We honestly didn't. We kept thinking about it and working on it. Of course, there's the usual, they would attack each other in the jail and fight it out. And, and I'm not doing that. I've seen it so many times. And it's beyond, I said, it's beyond fighting. It's beyond fighting, it's over. It's over. It's like the end of a marriage or something. It's like, that's it, there's no more arguing. There's no more discussion. I'm warning you, you may warn me, but it's over. And that's what eventually we came down to, I think that about 3 or 4 days before shooting. But that took months to get that right. Molly and Leo started working together very closely, Lily. They were improvising to a certain extent. You see it in the dinner scene at the beginning. You see it in the car when she says something in Osage, and he goes, I don't know what that was. He said, but it must be Indian for handsome devil. And she started laughing. That's real. So what you see right there is their relationship as people, as Leo and Lily, as Molly and Ernest. And that's what it was, even in the dinner scene, too. And so, sometimes, like at that dinner, a man named Wilson Pipestem got up. He's a lawyer. And he was very much against it. And he, in effect, harangued us and harangued me in a constructive way, saying, you don't get it. You don't understand any of this. No, went on and on and on. And at one point, he was telling me a story about his grandmother. Again, this was later, after the dinner. He talked to me. He was a very interesting guy. He said, you don't understand this. He said, my grandmother, when I was a kid, you see, the Osage is very different. He said, different from what you know. We were in our house, and I'd be running around, and all of a sudden she'd say, stop. Stop. There's a big storm. Wakanta has blessed us with the storm. Sit and receive Wakanta's blessing. And so I thought about that. I said, that's the end of the scene of the dinner. The original ending was they both got kind of drunk, and I said, no, it's better just, she tells him to stop. Wakanta, and he believes Wakanta, he believes it. In fact, Ernest, too, we found out was very much involved with the Osage language, so we started translating a lot of the scenes into Osage. I mean, not me, but the Osage, because the language is being recreated right now. It had been, so much had been, so much has been not talked about with the generations. They don't talk about it. And so all this was coming up. We had other meetings with a number of the elders and that sort of thing. And a couple of them got up. They were very quiet at first, but then the chief said, you got to talk. And one got up and said, it's coming down on us like a locomotive, and we're going to have to deal with this. And so it was really a matter of that respect, but respect not placing them in a hagiographic way, just dealing with rather them as victims. We didn't do that. We tried not to. So we got right into the middle of it with the two hearts together,